All right, so I do want to hit on the other kind of big topic from the course of this week, and that is, of course, obviously Mike Gundy. And look, before we get into it, I want to say a couple things. First of all, obviously, you guys have been listening to the show. I, for the most part, have largely avoided societal issues outside of sports, and it's for two very simple reasons. The first reason is you do not come here to talk. You come here for a distraction from the broader world. And I get that because I am a sports fan. And I'm not saying that there aren't very important conversations to be had on a lot of topics. But there are a lot of better radio shows and podcasts and TV shows than the Aaron Torres podcast to come for those conversations. And if you want that, it is very readily accessible. But when you come to sports show, you want to talk sports, you want to talk about the games, you want to talk about the players, whatever the topic is of the day, you want to talk about it. And then the other reason I don't really talk about it is very simply this. When I do this show, I like to bring what I believe, what I hope is a unique perspective on whatever topic I'm talking. It could be a game, it could be a recruitment, it could be a transfer. I like to bring a unique topic, a unique perspective to it. I don't know that there is a unique perspective on race. Everyone is against racism, right? It's not something that's like really debatable. I think we're all against it. And the ironic part is, I think I do kind of have a unique perspective. I don't talk about it much, but some of you have kind of asked me off the record. Yes, I am a product of a mixed-race marriage. My last name's Torres. Probably not that hard to figure out. I am also currently I am in a mixed-race marriage of my own. Approach my 1-year anniversary. You guys want to buy me a gift? That's cool. But my wife and I certainly come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and we see it in our own lives. To be clear, I'm not saying that, my experiences are worse than what maybe some other people have gone through, but what I'm just saying is nobody wants this in the world. We wish it was all eradicated, and certainly there are people that have dealt with worse things than I have and what other people have. But I got to get into it with this Mike Gundy stuff because this cancel culture stuff is driving me crazy, where every time anyone disagrees with anything, the whole world wants them shunned to somewhere. I don't even know where they want to be shunned to. And I think I think if you're listening, you probably know the Mike Gundy story. But for people who don't understand the story, Mike Gundy is the head coach at Oklahoma State football. Big month for Oklahoma State on the Aaron Torres podcast. 2 episodes on Cade Cunningham, Mike Boynton last week. Now I'm talking Mike Gundy. But he was on a fishing trip. I guess it was during the weekend. And on Monday, a picture comes out of Mike Gundy on the fishing trip, and he is wearing a shirt that says OAN on it. And social media immediately got mad, and I couldn't figure what is OAN. And so apparently OAN is a political TV station. They lean obviously a certain way. And I think that they've had moments over the past couple months where they've maybe made comments that were pretty insensitive to the time and to the moment. And so when Mike Gundy, the picture came out of him, in this t-shirt, his best player, Chuba Hubbard, a running back who led college football in rushing at over 2,000 yards per game, or 2,000 yards for the season last year, back at Oklahoma State this year, sent out a tweet that sent the world on fire. And basically what he said was very simply this: I will not stand for this. This is completely insensitive to everything going on in society. It's unacceptable. I will not be doing anything with Oklahoma State until things change. And it was, of course, because it's social media, because you can only have one opinion on social media, it was universally loved. And oh my God, he's so brave and he's so courageous and he's so this and he's so that. Mike Gundy's terrible. Mike Gundy's the worst person in the world. Mike Gundy needs to be fired. I saw multiple articles that said Mike Gundy needs to be fired. And it's preposterous. And so let me get into this. This was what bothered me. To be abundantly clear, I want to make this clear to everybody listening, regardless of your background, ethnicity, whatever. Chuba Hubbard is absolutely allowed to have his opinions. I do not know his background. He is from Canada. I do not know what he has dealt with. And I'm not unsympathetic to the fact that he has maybe dealt with some really bad stuff as a young man. I get it. I get it, and I get where he could potentially not be happy with this t-shirt. But I would say 2 things. One, for everyone with like the anti-Mike Gundy, If Mike Gundy was some terrible, unbelievably, unspeakably awful human being, Chuba Hubbard led college football in rushing last year. He was draft eligible. So if Mike Gundy was the most terrible human being in the world, I don't think Chuba Hubbard would have come back this year. That's neither here nor there. But I bring it up to say Chuba Hubbard is absolutely allowed to have his opinion on anything. Anything. It's his opinion. Just like it's my opinion, just like you listening, it's your opinion. If you're in the car with your kids, they have their opinions. There's nothing wrong with having your own opinion. Where I have the issue, though, is very simply this. Where I have the issue with Chuba Hubbard is the fact that rather than talking about Mike Gundy, rather than talking to Mike Gundy face to face, he had to blast it out to social media. And that is my issue with all of this. Why are we teaching our young people that if they don't like something, if they are offended by something, nobody else's feelings matter, and just go after the person? That's the part that bothers me. And look, I get it. I'm not a parent, okay? I'm not going to claim to understand what everybody goes through on every single day, every single basis. But when I was a kid, even now as an adult, do I like every single thing that one of my bosses does? Do my bosses like every single thing that I do? No, of course not. Do I like every single thing that my wife does? Of course not. But I don't just go demanding that that we get a divorce. I don't go on social media demanding somebody be fired or fire me because they disagree with me. That is not what this is about. And that's the part that bothers me, that we continue to do this time and time and time again. We get information. It's taken out of context. We demand somebody be fired. And the only place it ever happens is on social media. It doesn't happen in real life. In real life, if you have an issue with somebody, you talk about them. You tell them why they're wrong. And by the way, that's what I loved about this Oklahoma State story. Mike Gundy and Chuba Hubbard had a disagreement. Chuba Hubbard admitted he shouldn't have taken it public. Mike Gundy admitted he needs to be more sensitive to his entire locker room, including the African-American players. That's great. You know why that's great? Because they had a disagreement, they did not see eye to eye, and they sat down man to man and figured it out. What drives me crazy, though, is first of all, Mike Gundy was wearing a T-shirt. Mike Gundy was wearing a T-shirt. Was it maybe a little bit insensitive in this exact moment? Maybe. But it was a T-shirt. And why do we feel like it's okay to just demand that every single person be fired, be excommunicated, whatever, because they have different opinions than us? It drives me insane, and we've seen it time and time and time again. Dabo shows up in a T-shirt that people don't like. Oh, he's got to go. Well, Dabo's players had his back, and they explained it. And take 30 seconds to actually ask a player. Take 30 seconds to ask Dabo. Trevor Lawrence said he wears a T-shirt all the time. It doesn't mean what you think it means. We don't have to fire Dabo. The situation with Mike Norvell, and I talked about it. It's like, oh my God, Mike Norvell needs to be fired because he lied. No, he doesn't need to be fired. And by the way, that was the crazy part about the Mike Gundy stuff. I saw multiple articles. I try not to call media out by name, but you can go find them that said he was going to get fired over this. He was not going to get fired over a T-shirt. He's owed $10 million in a buyout. Oklahoma State is not going to pay him $10 million because he wore a T-shirt. But my bigger thing is this idea that every single time somebody disagrees with something, we have to cancel them, man. That's not how the world works. That's not how we evolve as a society, and that's not how we get better as people. As I just said, I've been married for a year. My wife and I disagree on a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's big stuff. Sometimes it's important stuff. I don't just demand a divorce. I don't go on Instagram and just say, my wife did this. Can you believe this? And rally people against her. And I am so tired of this. I'm so tired of, 2-3 times a week, everybody's got to be mad about something. Like even the Drew Brees stuff. I've stayed away from the Drew Brees stuff. Whatever his opinion was, the greatest thing that happened was that he talked about it with his teammates. And if he believed he was wrong, 1, he apologized, but 2, he learned. And it doesn't have to be this thing where we yell and we scream. And by the way, I know I'm yelling and screaming, which makes it ironic. It doesn't have to be this thing where we yell and scream and shout people down and Like, let's be better as human beings. Let's be better as a society. If somebody does something that you think is wrong, let's teach them. Because I got to ask you, where does this cancel culture stuff end? And that's the crazy part too. Everybody just, Mike Gundy doesn't get fired, they move on to the next guy or girl. It's going to be somebody tomorrow. We know it is. I don't know who it'll be. But, people demand these guys be fired, these girls be fired. Some of them are. Then they just move on to the next one. And by the way, you know what the new thing is on social media that drives me crazy? When somebody actually makes an apology, it's never enough, right? Mike Gundy, I tweeted out the apology video with Chuba Hubbard, and I had so many people say, well, Mike Gundy doesn't really seem sincere. Well, who are we to decide who is sincere and who is not sincere? Come on, man. We're all trying to get better. We all wake up every single day trying to be better human beings, trying to be better husbands, trying to be better wives, trying to be better coaches. Who am I to say that Mike Gundy is a bad person because he wore a t-shirt? And who am I to say that when he actually did apologize to his players that it's not sincere? What? What standard is that? And so I'm so tired of this social media stuff. And where does it end, by the way? Because eventually everybody's going to piss off somebody, right? Eventually everybody's going to piss off somebody. I think about it all the time. Where does it end? And maybe this is a terrible analogy, but I think we can all kind of agree that Charles Barkley is probably one of the most beloved people in the media right now. It's because he speaks his mind like I'm speaking my mind right now. Charles Barkley, go to his Wikipedia page. He was busted for drunk driving in 2009, and he was busted for assault as a player. At what point is somebody going to demand that guy be fired? At what point is he going to say something that somebody else demands that he be fired? And by the way, whatever you think about Charles Barkley, he actually broke the law. Mike Gundy wore a t-shirt. So, are we going to force Charles Barkley out? Magic Johnson has a statue outside the Staples Center. Guy was a womanizer. He wasn't the greatest husband. I don't think that matters. I don't care. He was really awesome to watch play basketball. But is somebody going to demand that he has his statue torn down? It sounds crazy. It sounds like the most preposterous thing that I've ever said on this show. But if people are going to try to fire Mike Gundy over a t-shirt, maybe Magic Johnson's next. Maybe Babe Ruth, who's a notorious womanizer. When do we start to ask for Babe Ruth to be removed from the Hall of Fame? Ty Cobb, we know about his background. He was a terrible human being. When do we start to ask if he's going to be removed from the Hall of Fame? You can go on and on and on down the list. Every single sports person. They've done things in the past that they regret. They do things in the present that they regret. That's part of how the world is. None of us are perfect. We're all working hard. And I'm sorry, but if Mike Gundy was a terrible human being, I don't think he would have been the head coach at Oklahoma State for 15 years. I don't think he would be involved in football for 40 years. I just don't think so. And so all I'm asking is, I've just gone so far off topic right now, but everybody just calm down with the cancel culture stuff. It is ridiculous. It is absurd. It doesn't make anybody better. By the way, it doesn't happen in real life, and it doesn't solve the problem. Firing somebody, demanding they be fired, demanding they be let go, doesn't solve the problem. You know what solves the problem? What Chuba Hubbard did to his credit, which is talk to Mike Gundy behind the scenes, let him know why he's upset, and the two of them figured out a way to come together to make it a better situation. I hope that made sense, but this whole thing has been bugging me. I actually didn't comment about it on Monday or Tuesday whenever it happened because I was trying to figure out what the big controversy was, and I saw it. I give credit to Chuba Hubbard. I give credit to Mike Gundy. They handled it behind the scenes, but I hate this idea that we are teaching our young people, especially on social media, that anything we don't like, just call it out and cancel it. Because that's not how the world works. And if you want to improve society, sit down with people and talk to them.